Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To Sumi and peace out to the rest of you. Black Heart signing Black in, asking you to hit that share button. You know why? I thank those of you who have hit like, share, or subscribe. You know why. And without taking a long time to get to it, you saw the title. So, let me just go ahead and say it, brothers. I initially was going to record this and I was going to address Miss Mason and Miss Collier. But it wouldn't do any good. Assalamu alaikum, gentlemen. Wouldn't do any good to address them because I don't expect any changes from them. I'm going to tell you why, though, brothers. I don't expect any changes because, number one, Cynthia Collier already told a lie. And at the very best, she exaggerated. But we know she lied about something in order to exaggerate. So, she's already started off. She has no reason to decide to go back and, take the honest route. She had no reason to do it. So, consequently, she's we can't expect it from her. But then the question becomes, what about April Mason? Now, her cousin is taking the side of the cousin, and I understand why anybody would support a relative. However, what we are seeing is a little different from what we thought. At first, I thought the cousin lied, got April Mason all riled up, called her before she even called the cops, and probably did so in a bid to get April Mason to change her platform. April Mason fell for it. And she didn't change her mind when she saw the videotape. Now, after thinking about it, and someone quoted April Mason to have said that she will now tell sisters to find love or take love where they can find it because brothers ain't on it. I understand something here. This, even though I cannot prove it, and I admit right now, to be fair, that this is a suspicion of mine, not something I can prove. But my suspicion is that she was planning this with her cousin from the very beginning just to have a reason to change her platform. Now she's made money as a femininity coach and a dating coach. So either the motive is financial, meaning that she'll make more money changing her platform, or the motive is not financial to begin with. Either she's made enough to where she don't need no more, or she's willing to take less if she doesn't have to travel as often. Whatever the case is, and I admit, this is a theory, and I haven't been able to plug in as to what the motive might be, but social pressure has a lot to do with it. And right now, black women in the West don't get a lot of social acceptance by taking any kind of stance that is not militant against us. That's the fad right now. You get your props with sisters at this point, right now, by doing one specific thing, and that is going in on brothers. Now, there is something about which I heard, and I have not been able to prove it yet. I'm going to mention it to you, not to spread a rumor, but I'm going to mention it to anyone in here so that they can send me any links if they happen to know something about this and they know where the links are that I can look at. And that is, I heard from a subscriber from the same state as me about insurance babies. And that the way it was supposed to work was that insurance babies were actually biracial kids from black mothers, white fathers, who were messing around while she would have been married to a black husband. And if there was an insurance policy on that black husband's life, they'd get him lynched. She and the white lover would get him lynched. He'd be taken out the picture. She'd get the insurance money, and then she would roll out. He and she would roll out somewhere else and start fresh with the insurance money. I'm not sure how true this is. I was told that I could look up B. Franklin Frazier. And that he had a reference to this. So I'm not asking you in order to start a rumor. I'm asking so that anyone who hears this and does know can give me some links if they have them. But I want to make this plain too, brothers. If, in fact, April Mason is saying to sisters, take love where you can find it, we're still better for this reason. Number one, I'm not up here telling you to go after the white woman. I'm telling you to stay away from her because she's a problem. Whatever problem sisters have been, that white woman's been a bigger problem. Basic things like, being there for your man are things that have always been over their heads to a certain extent. These men, these white men, going around the world, and one of the things they've done is they found that they found that they were very easily wiped out when they mixed with others because, they had to travel without their women. Their women would not travel oftentimes to the next village with these men, let alone to a distant island. But when they started coming back to their home country, sometimes with these mixed babies, the women got upset. The women were angry about it. So, it's very deep. It's deeper than I have time to cover in here. But I want to tell you, brothers, that if it comes out that this whole thing of insurance babies is true, and if that author of the Daughters of the Trade, that white woman, was not lying about it, she may have been, she may not, I don't know. But if it turns out that she was not lying, and these insurance babies think, if they're both true, then the black woman's an enemy. It means that the black woman in Western Africa and in the Western Hemisphere has a history of betraying the black man. Willingly. Either unknowingly or carelessly or intentionally. If this is the case, then brothers, understand that means that two women you have to strike off your list. The Western black woman, to a certain extent, maybe even some parts of the motherland. And in other parts, you would not have to strike them off because the motherland is big. It's not all the same. And I want to be fair, but there will be certain parts of the motherland you got to strike off the list when it comes to looking for your mates. And of course, the white woman. We should be striking them off the list right off the bat anyway, because they were the ones who put sisters through a lot of the trauma through which they went in the Western Hemisphere. And if you're going to blame a criminal for something they've done, you have to blame the other criminal behind them giving the orders or forcing them to do it, whatever the case is. You don't catch the little fish and just let the big fish go just because you don't want to go after the big fish and reel them in. You catch the ones you can catch and use them to catch the others. That's all. So, if you know, now I know the book Daughters of the Trade has already been written. I've gotten the basic synopsis of it. I understand the author's a white woman. I don't automatically trust her or distrust her. But I know white women will lie to suit their purposes too. That's what they have a history of doing. So I take what she wrote with a grain of salt. However, she could not have made up everything in that book. By the same token, I welcome any new information on these insurance babies. Now, what does this have to do with Cynthia Collier and April Mason? It's real simple. If you can find these things, and they're there, and they're true, and you can prove it, then this would show that there's a historical basis and precedence for what Cynthia Collier and April Mason are doing now, and that it would be with malice aforethought. One of the things is that women will succumb to pressure, and they actually succumb more to pressure from each other than they succumb to pressure from men. They'll say, well, we wear weaves and wigs because men like it. Well, there was a time that would have been better than wearing your real natural hair, but that day is over. And since when have women ever been willing to be behind in trends? If that day is over, then sisters will be the first ones to say that's so played out. That's so 1990s. This is 2019. Okay, so we're talking 2 decades later. So what the hell, man? Well, we bleach our skin because men like it. No, not necessarily so. No, you look like a ghost patched together, trying to walk around in the land of the living. No, you look like you're trying out for the role of Dracula. So that's not why. They succumb to pressure from each other more than they succumb to pressure from men. And if they're pressuring each other to start going hard on black men, then many of them are going to succumb to it even when they did not want to at first. If this is not the case, the only way we will know is when Miss Mason comes out and says, I'm not going to back my cousin up in this. We'll get her some help, but we're not backing her up. I'm done with that subject. That's it. We haven't heard that yet. That's not what we're hearing. It's still, well, why did brothers leave these comments in the comment sections? Well, why didn't brothers get riled up? Well, you know, Merlin Santana was shot that way. He's still dead. I've known some people that got into fights about that kind of stuff. She said, and then, you know, they split two guys get to hooking. I've seen this happen before. And I know that women will brag to each other when no man is around about how they can get men to fight with each other. Girl, I had them niggas fighting over me. I hadn't said nothing to either one of them, and they was fighting over whose girlfriend I was gonna be. And that's some high school stuff, but it's not dissipating and disappearing as we get into adulthood. Why else would anybody want to make a false accusation? Because they want to be valued and desired more than what they are. That's what it is. Because they're thinking like men. They're projecting their thinking onto me. Well, I only want this man because other women wanted him. So since men don't seem to want me, I'm going to make up a story about other men wanting me. This, boy. I mean, I'm beginning to understand to a certain extent. You can understand them or you can love them, but you can't do both. So, you understand now, brothers, why I was going to initially address this to April Mason and Cynthia Collier, but now it's like, why should I? Why would I address them? If I'm wrong, they'll tell me that I'm wrong. But if I'm right, they wouldn't say, touche, you got me, we're going to change. They wouldn't do it. And if I'm wrong about one thing and right about the other, they're still going to say I'm wrong about all of it. April Mason is doubling down on a lie after the videotape has shown it to be a lie. That's bad enough. And that's evidence of malice aforethought. Pre-knowledge that it was a lie. Just not pre-knowledge that it was on videotape. That's all. Nothing else. This is what we're facing, guys. Now, gentlemen, I'm going to say this. This femininity thing is the same thing as get the bag. Nicole Michelle even says that she promotes femininity so that women can get commitments and get the bag. They care more about the bag than they do the financial commitment, or I should say the marital commitment of being married to somebody. That matters to them more. If we're going to sit up here and talk about what women want as though it's valid, then what about what men want? And it has to be valid. And another thing, gentlemen, understand this, and this is what you start saying to sisters when they start talking about what they want, what women need, and this, that, and the other. Don't only bring it back to sex, but bring it back to sex all the time, and other things, but always make sure you put the sex in there. What about what men want? And what about the sex that men want? And what about the sex that you want that you're actually driving away because of everything else you want? Bring it back to that. Because they're going to try to say, well, don't you have a natural instinct to protect women? And that's when you say, don't you have a natural instinct to fuck your husband? And when they look at you crazy, don't you have a natural instinct to follow a man that leads responsibly? They'll say yes. They'll tell you that is the case. But one of the ways you'll know that is that they will bend the hell over for a husband that is leading responsibly, and they're following him. They're not going to walk around here for no 2 and 3 months and never bring up the subject of sex. They would even initiate it with him. Hey, your testes good? You need some? And I'm not saying that in the act itself that men should neglect the woman's needs. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that the women themselves would show this, and it would show up in the sex. That would be a litmus test for a lot of things. But because women are always trying to downplay the importance of sex to them, even though it is important, they're not doing this because they're trying to go without sex. They're doing it because they're trying to limit themselves to specifically 13 to 14% of the men they want to screw, while still being able to put responsibilities on you. That's when it comes down to. And that's why you got to keep bringing it about the sex, keep bringing it back. So the women will have to understand that if they're not sexually attracted enough to a man to screw him, they shouldn't be asking for other things, unless they're paying for these things or unless they're related to him. That's it. There's no taking and not give. There ain't gonna be none of that. And even if it's about the sex, remember, they have sexual needs too. So that in and of itself isn't even trade. Now they gotta bring sex and other things to the table. That's when it has to come down to. Femininity is part of it. This is why you can justify when you go to Latin America or Southeast Asia and certain parts of the motherland. You can justify that. You can't justify it to me if you're going looking just for girlfriends or paying to play because I'm a Muslim and I'm not allowed to justify those things. But to them, you could justify it. And if you're looking for a wife in these areas, you can justify that to both me and them. Whatever the case is, whatever you're looking for, you can say to these ladies. The fact remains that if they want the same things that you want, they do a better job of going about getting it. And we get certain things out of it as well. That's real. One man said that he was in Thailand. He dated a girl for a week and then her menses began. She brought a friend of hers to date, so to speak, him for the rest of his trip, the rest of the time he was there. Now he knows that he's not the only one in their lives. And they know they ain't the only ones in his life. But I'm going to tell you that two women like that have the potential. They're already better than a wife that does not sit up and concern herself with her husband's sexual satisfaction. Already they're better. So these two have a better shot at making a good wife if they chose to stop doing this sort of thing outside of marriage, find a husband, and do this. Within the marriage, they would be better wives than the women that are already married, but would never ever make his sexual satisfaction one of her priorities. And this is something sisters actually do know. Don't say they don't know this. They know, they just don't give a rat's behind. Because it's not that they don't care or they refuse to care, even though this is something important to you. They refuse to prioritize it because it is something that is important to you. You were dealing with the resentment that she has against you because the white man was Superman. That's all. That's how she's looking at you. She's mad at you because somebody else won a fight. Even though she got her butt whooped in that same fight, she's not mad at the assailant. She's mad at you, and she would rather, as we're seeing now, she would rather go and screw the assailant than to be loyal to you, even though the assailant already assaulted her. This is real. And I know that rape was well, I'm not even going to get into that. Brothers, what I'm saying is that Cynthia Collier was not really the big surprise, but April Mason was. However, learn the lesson from that surprise and understand that at this point, those of you who did not have passports or who just had not gone abroad, you now were given an extra incentive to do it. And I'm only going to tell you or encourage marriage anyway. But even in that case, I'm going to tell you that now you got extra reason to look for marriage specifically outside of the Western woman. And white woman, I've already told you she's a problem. Leave her be. But as much as I've been for black love, now we got to go ahead and just admit that we're not the ones that were against black love. We were being driven away the whole time. It ain't our fault. Brothers, you wind up with another woman of color, don't let a sister say nothing to you. You ask her. When a sister has something to say, you simply say this. When was the last time that when you were young and attractive and debt-free and child-free that you approached a good man that you knew would make a good husband? When was the last time that happened? They look at you like, why should I have to make an approach? You say, exactly. Now fuck the shuck up. Get out my damn way so she and I can walk into this restaurant. That's how you do it. Or exactly. Now fuck the shuck up and get off my doggone phone so I can call her and start talking dirty to her. That's how you pull that off. That silences all the arguments. That's it. Because as much as I promote marriage, even I'm going to admit that the Western wife is actually worse than the Eastern whore. I'm admitting this, and I've never even messed around with a hoe in the East. I haven't tricked, and I'm telling you that the one that turns tricks with manners is better than the wife that's rude and nasty to her husband. But hey, brothers, you can find the wife that's gonna be good to the husband. You just can't find them in the West, that's all. And even the ones that listen to April Mason, you're not gonna be able to find it with them because she swapped the platform. And I don't hear anything about her former students coming out and saying, hey, what are you doing? You betrayed the game, you betrayed the message. I don't hear nothing like that yet. I've gone on long enough. Thanks for being patient. Blackheart, sign of blackout. Assalamu alaikum.